All right, good evening. My name is Warren Call, President and CEO of Traverse Connect, and on behalf of our Board of Directors, we want to welcome you to Traverse Connect's Meet the Candidates event, where you'll have a chance to hear from the candidates running for the Traverse City Commission, the Traverse City Commission, rather, and the mayoral office. Tonight's event will allow our investors to learn where our candidates stand on issues important to our business community because the questions are generated by you. As a reminder, this is a live event, so please use the Q&A feature to submit any questions you'd like to hear, and you can do that right now. We'll be accepting questions in that Q&A feature at the bottom until the candidate introductions are done, and we will try our best to get to the questions that come in. The city election, as you all know, is coming up on November 2nd. It's critically important for our business community and citizens at large that we both elect and educate leaders about issues that are important to us, especially as we address some of the big things right now, the post-COVID-19 economic recovery, the proper use of federal stimulus dollars, and of course, our ongoing issues of workforce housing. We saw last year that our voter education materials, the online candidate profiles, and recordings of the Meet the Candidate events were well utilized, with hundreds of views in the days leading up to the election day. Our community values this information, and we look to provide it again for these city commission candidates. The recording of tonight's event will be posted on the city election page on our website. And of course, tonight's event would not be possible without the help of the Traverse City Record Eagle. Tonight, we are fortunate to have Nate Payne, editor of the Record Eagle, to moderate our Meet the Candidates forum. Nate, welcome, and over to you.
Thanks, Warren. I'm excited to be here. Last year, this was a lot of fun, and it was a great chance for me to get to know the candidates a little better, and hopefully it'll be an opportunity for everyone else who's engaged here tonight to get to know the candidates as well. A lot of the questions are pretty interesting tonight. We've got a Record Eagle one toward the end. The candidates have been provided the first 8 questions ahead of time, so they've been allowed to prepare. They'll be asked the questions in a somewhat random order, so we aren't back and forth debating individual questions. The candidates will have 3 minutes each for their opening statement, 3 minutes for a closing statement, and 2 minutes to respond to each of the 9 questions. And we will put in submitted questions toward the end. Everyone will answer a question or two in order if we have an opportunity and have time toward the end. 7 questions have been given to, or 8 questions have been given to the candidates in advance. Our timekeeper, Liz McKellar, will keep track of time, raising cards when there's 1 minute and 30, and then when there's 30 seconds left. We will also ring a bell when time runs out, and candidates' microphones will be immediately muted to keep it fair. The candidates will be introduced in alphabetical order to provide their opening remarks. We will run reverse alphabetical order for closing remarks. In the mayoral race, we have Richard Lewis. We have, and in city commission races, we have Tim Pulliam, Merrick Roman, my Stanley, Mitchell Treadwell, Tim Werner, and Mark L. Wilson. 3 are running for partial terms. That's Tim Pulliam, Merrick Roman, and Mitchell Treadwell, and that is the contested race in November. We will get rolling here with opening statements if we're ready. We'll start off with Richard Lewis. Don't forget to unmute.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for watching us and taking time from a beautiful evening to watch this. And those of you that watch it tomorrow know that everyone else, what you missed. As mentioned, my name is Richard Lewis. I am a candidate for the office of mayor. And to correct a little bit of a statement, just because it has the title of mayor, that office is still a member of the city commission. The office has no more power or rights or anything else other than just one of 7 people that have to work together to come up with what we hope is good solutions for our community. I'm seeking the office of mayor mainly because I want to continue to build on and to strengthen the relationships and the trust that we have to have with our citizens and our businesses throughout the Traverse City and the community. Not only do we work with that, but we also need to work with our other units of government that we interact with, and with the various for-profit and not-for-profits that also perform services here in our community. The city is just one of many entities that are out there serving those services and the citizens and the business community. And we have to play our part just like everyone else has to play their own part. So it's not just one individual or one group that's doing this. It's all of us working together to make our community, our city, the best that it can possibly be. I'm going to be privileged to be able to work with 6 other folks, and not only on the elected officials, as we work and debate and as Tim Warner and I have done before, argue, and then figure out what we're going to do and come up with the best. But I think every one of us has the desire that we want to bring the best that we possibly can in policies and things such as that, but also to the individuals that come before us or work with us or ask for things, that everyone is treated with respect and dignity at all times. I know that's been the practice of the commission in the past, and we want to continue to do that. I know in today's climate out there on the national politics and somewhat on the state politics, it seems like it's kind of tough, but I know that we as a community can do that, and we can raise above that, and that's what we should strive for. So with that, I think most of the folks know that I've been around for way too long, probably by some people's consideration, but thanks for your consideration.
Thank you, Richard. Next up for 3 minutes is Tim Pulliam.
Good evening, everybody. Tim Pulliam here. And like Richard mentioned, yeah, thanks for tuning in. It's good to know that other people are concerned, because we're putting the time out here to think about doing this. And I want to believe that, we're going to be able to make a difference. I'm running because I want to be able to try to bring some consensus to the team, hoping that, when we disagree, it's because we all have looked at things kind of through the same lens and at the same data and the same information, and that's what we're using to come to these decisions together. It's kind of what I do here with the organization that I run in town, and it's what I'm hoping to be able to bring to the city commission.
Thank you, Tim. Merrick Roman is up next with 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to thank the chamber and everyone's time for hosting this forum here. My name is Merrick Roman, and I'm running for the 2-year city commission seat. I'm a lifelong resident of the area. I grew up in Glen Arbor, Michigan, and back in 2017, I made my lifelong dream to purchase a house here in downtown. And I would like to serve, I'm asking to serve on as a city commissioner because of my background and of my passion for the area. The reason why I decided to campaign and for the position as city commissioner is because I was one of the residents when the water rose last year and went into my basement and into my sump pump, which was connected to the wastewater facility. And as one of our other commissioners, previous commissioners, as will be with us for the next city commission, commented that that was one of the many reasons why we had wastewater emissions into West Bay. And as a chemical engineer and someone that's infrastructure centric, I think that it is unacceptable to have those problems right there. And that should be our #1 priority. I am an engineer and also an applied economist. I think I like data. I want to make sure that we have that we run our city efficiently, that we keep our energy bills and our water bills as low as possible while providing valuable, robust services for our city residents and the people that utilize the city. Because I know that our dear city services 3 different counties, lots of people, numerous amounts of people, and we have great creative people, great creative industries that we can all share this city and make it better for generations to come. So thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Merrick. Next up, we have Mai Stanley with 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Mai Stanley, and I want to reiterate my thanks to Traverse Connect for hosting this forum this evening, and also to the Record Eagle for providing our moderator for this questions. And of course, all of you who are watching and giving up your beautiful evening, and those of you who are watching down the road, we're all here because we really care deeply about this community. So I keep saying I have to get better at talking about myself if I'm going to be running for public office, but I'm in most of my life very much a behind the scenes kind of person. And the reason that I'm running for city commission is really that my neighbors, our community members, business leaders, former candidates asked me to run. They knew me as someone who grew up here and who moved away because I didn't perceive that I would have opportunities to make a life here. And I was homesick the entire 15 years that I lived in upstate New York, where I earned a master's degree at Syracuse University and also was an educator and administrator for over a decade. And I know there are a lot of people like me who grew up here and value the quality of life and the close-knit community that we have here, but who have felt challenged in wanting to be able to come back. And so when people asked me to step up and serve the community, I felt like I really have a responsibility to this place that helped make me who I am today, to give back to it and try to make this be a place that is a little less challenging for people like me who want to boomerang back, or for people who are young professionals elsewhere who see the kind of quality of life that this city offers and want to bring their families here. I mean, my family moved here as a young family when my parents were right out of grad school and had their kids here. And, you know, that's never been more challenging to do that than it is right now. So those are the issues that motivated me, but really it was in response to a request to serve. And I don't see this as a political office. I see it as public service. And I really do feel a call to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mai. Next up, we have Mitchell Treadwell with 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Treadwell. I'm running to serve on the 2-year partial term. I would like to thank again Traverse Connect and the Record Eagle for hosting and moderating this forum tonight. I have lived in this town for most of my life. I went to Central Grade School and West Middle and high school. Then I went away to MSU, Go Green, before coming back to the town that I call home. Traverse City is a great little place with a lot to offer, and I feel that as somebody that grew up here, I've greatly benefited from that, but it is increasingly unaffordable to many people, especially young people like myself, who want to live and work in this community. The housing crisis just keeps getting more severe, especially as, despite the current labor shortage, many wages are relatively low and force people to either live outside of the city limits and commute in, or to move away from Traverse City entirely. I see this as something that the City Commission should work a little harder to address and to help make our community more vibrant. As some of you may know, I've been an active voice in front of various city boards, including City Commission and Planning Commission in the past several years. I currently serve on the Housing Commission, the Parks and Rec Board, and the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I hope to utilize that experience to work to make Traverse City a better place, tackling such issues as bringing more affordable housing to our area, improving our parks and public spaces and improving the quality of our infrastructure and helping to ensure that we have sensible zoning that keeps our neighborhoods in their quaint state while allowing new development that doesn't eclipse and shadow the houses around them. I look forward to the rest of this forum, and I look forward to your vote later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell. Next up, we have Tim Werner with 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, and like everybody else, thanks to Traverse Connect and thanks to the Record Eagle for putting this on this evening. After much consideration and discussions with my wife, I have decided to seek an additional term as a city commissioner, and many reasons for that. But the two main reasons really are the housing crisis, which has been mentioned, and the climate crisis. And we as a city won't solve either of those, but through our leadership, we can show what's possible. And that's really what I'm hoping to help advance in another term. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. And we have Mark L. Wilson.
Bonjour. Maegan edition Kazanova Idnesh Nabe and Dao Mang Dodam. Kchi Wikwidong Dojaba. I'm not going to do all my presentation in Anishinaabe Moen, but I thought it was important for this as my first introduction to the City Commission to introduce myself. And my name is Mark Wilson. I'm a lifelong resident of Kchi-Wikwidong, which is the literal translation is around the Big Bay, around our area. My family's always been here. I'm a citizen of the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. And I mention that so that I can hopefully demonstrate my commitment to this area and to this community and my love of our homeland. I could echo all the things that my predecessors had just spoken to. I certainly would not debate any of those issues. I think that with the team that could be teed up here, there'd be some real chemistry to get some of these issues done solved in a way that works for everybody. To highlight some of my qualifications, I've served 2 terms on the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians Tribal Council. Those are both 4-year terms, and it's given me experience dealing government to government at the federal, state, local, and tribal levels. And I also hold a master's degree in public administration, which I use to help my service to my tribe and plan to use servicing the people of Traverse City. Kachimi Gwech, much thanks, and I look forward to the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Mark. So that wraps up our intros. We're going to dive right into the questions. We will start off with Richard Lewis. The availability of attainable housing is a key barrier to success of our businesses, our citizens, and our community. How do you intend to address the lack of adequate attainable housing?
Well, I personally am not going to be able to do anything. I'm not that good, but we can do that. I think that with the 7 individuals along with staff, but more importantly, along with the community, because I think as Mr. Warner said earlier, Traverse City is not going to solve this problem. There's not enough land, there's not enough money, there's not enough probably time, but we got to be working with Traverse Connect, with all the other agencies and nonprofit agencies to come up with a solution that we can be moving toward. And it's not going to happen in 2 years. It's not going to happen in 3 years. It's probably going to take a number of years. But one of the most important things that if a project comes to us and they want to have a tax abatement, through or that's allowed by law, or they need a payment in lieu of taxes, we need to be looking at those very seriously. And we also need to make sure we're looking at them in such a way that we're getting what we like to see happen for a longer term, not just for a short term. So we need to make sure we look at all the advantages that we can have. And that also includes our zoning. If we can allow more density in some areas, then we should attempt that. So we're just one part of a multiple group of folks that are going to have to make a decision on how we will want to proceed. So.
Thank you, Richard. Next up, we have Tim Pulliam. What is your vision for the city 5, 10, and 25 years from now?
Well, just looking at, I guess, some of the current issues for the 5-year plan, I think obviously the infrastructure that we all talk about is something that we need to address right away. I feel like there's things and steps that we can be doing and taking right now. And I think it's critical that we do before it gets away from us. I think in 10 years, and obviously we should be working on all these things along the way, but I think a goal that I have is in 10 years, I would love to see us have a good handle and a strategy rolling out for affordable housing. And I think that those things should also include ways to manage childcare issues. I know we might talk about some of that stuff a little bit more later. And I think kind of a long range goal, if I really swung for the stars, would be to make sure that our 25-year strategy shows us with a really low carbon footprint, a really low impact on the environment and resources around us. And I think that those first two items, that the 5 and the 10-year, are kind of building blocks or foundations that are important to be able to accomplish the third. So those would be my 5, 10, and 25.
Thank you, Tim. Next up is Merrick Roman. You're the first one who gets the Record Eagle question. Should the city offer voters an opportunity to weigh in on Fish Pass, continue litigation, or both, and why?
Thank you for the question. I believe that the way that the city charter was written about parks, that this is a proposal that should be brought to the city residents and to the voters. I think it's pretty clear that the way that we want to deal with how our parks are the initiative for our parks. It is tough, it is risky, but I think that as a city commissioner, I would be someone that would want to run a campaign, a communication campaign with residents. I think that Fish Pass is a positive thing, both as a infrastructure and also as a technology and education tool for our future DNR and fishermen and wildlife hobbyists. So thank you.
Thank you, Merrick. Next question is for Mai. What role can and should city officials have in fostering and supporting entrepreneurs in our region?
Well, I think there is an important distinction in that question between elected officials, which all of us here are either going to be or running to be, and our community leaders. And when it comes to being an elected official, I think it's important to keep in mind that, at least in my case, I am running as a citizen, not as a subject matter expert. I'm not a business owner. I'm certainly not an entrepreneur. And so I think it's important to support the professionals who are working to enhance and to further build our business community, including supporting entrepreneurs. And so I would be very supportive of continuing Traverse Connect's partnership with the city to provide economic development. I think that is also very important to keep the elected officials out of the weeds in terms of what is really needed in the business community to support new businesses as well as the existing businesses who have been part of the fabric of our community for so many years.
Thank you, Mai. Next up, Mitchell Treadwell. Northwest Lower Michigan is facing a persistent shortage of childcare, making it difficult for parents of young children to continue working. The shortage is caused in part by a lack of qualified workers, forcing childcare providers to scale back or close altogether. How would you approach solving our region's childcare workforce shortage?
I don't see this as, unfortunately, a problem that can be easily tackled at the local level of city government. But there are steps that we can do. We can partner with the county that has an existing childcare program for county staff. That only covers a small portion, but it could still help somewhat. But also we can make our zoning a little more flexible in certain areas so that childcare centers are allowed in more parts of the city. And we can also look into whether it would be feasible to either directly or partnering with some other entity to create some subsidy program to further incentivize people to go into childcare support as a business. We can't, I wouldn't say that we can pay the entire operational costs of such businesses, but if we can offer enough of an incentive to bring more people into that sector, then it could help to meet the demand for our region and thus allow more people that would otherwise be working in our town to work rather than having to care for the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell. Next up is Tim Werner. Are there current city policies, projects, or approaches that you are hoping to change? And if so, how?
Yeah, I've had several years, I guess. So if I did come up with something, somebody could ask, well, why didn't you already work to change it? I get so in thinking about this, the one that really comes to mind, and actually Richard and I worked on this in the past, is the Brown Bridge Trust Fund. We have approximately $12 million there, I believe. Could be off by $1 million, but let's just call it $12 million. And it earns very little interest. And to me, that's not financially responsible to just let it essentially sit there and maybe not even keep up with inflation. So there should be a discussion, I feel, a community-wide discussion. It'll probably take many years about what could be done with those monies to invest in the community rather than, they're invested in US treasuries. How about we invest them in the community? And not all at once, but again, start that discussion, because when that fund was created, it was for like a super rainy day. Well, we just went through a pandemic, not out of it yet, a once in a century pandemic, and we didn't need to tap into it. So what are we saving it for? When the meteor hits the bay and causes a tsunami. So I jest there, but I really think it should be a community discussion about what could that be used for to invest in the community. And again, not next year or the year after, but maybe in the coming years, because that discussion will take quite a bit of time. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Mark Wilson, how will you engage young professionals in your decision-making process?
I wrestle with the word young because I'm curious where are we in the era, so if we're talking about young college graduates, if that's young, I try to consider myself still a young professional at 42. But for the most part, I want to meet them where they're at and not wait for them to come to us for their needs and the issues that trouble them. I mean, we already know what a lot of the problems are. I mean, we've solved for decades getting better education locally, and now we're looking at trying to get more, attract more businesses that will help these young professionals get a career start. So people like my co-candidate Mai don't have to move away if they don't want to. And more importantly, we need to make sure that they have somewhere to live. And so I think we already know what they're going to need. And one of the other things that I want to help when meeting them where they're at is to keep in mind that we're trying to look out for all professionals, and I don't want to see us create, while we're in an effort to create something like for my kids and my nephews to have somewhere to live and work, that those in a career transfer aren't shoved out over ageism. So I'm here for all residents and especially all professionals, but I definitely want to help create somewhere for the young professionals to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Back to Richard. What can elected officials do to promote diverse and welcoming communities in an effort to attract the best and brightest minds to our region? Richard, you're muted.
I'm still learning how to use a computer. You know, you talk about young professionals. I think if all comes to pass, I'll be the oldest person on the commission. I'm going to be ancient. So just continue to bear with me. I think one of the reasons why Traverse Connect is where they are today with the leadership that they have. About 6 years ago, no, probably not that long, but about 4 years ago, you know, the effort was made to see what should we be doing and how should we be doing it, and is there something different that should be doing? And through a lot of community effort and through support from the business community, you know, a new Traverse Connect was, you know, chamber was born. And part of that is that we knew, or at least I knew at the time, that we as a city commission, you know, we don't have all the expertise, and our staff is very busy trying to just keep up with, you know, just making sure the roads are taken care of, wastewater and water, you know, the essential necessities of a community for it to survive. But what I'm really pleased with is that at last the city has now made its fair share of contribution toward, you know, Traverse Connect, and working with the city and the community to figure out, okay, where should we be heading? Between the city, the DDA, and Light and Power, there's $150,000 of public money going in to help to answer this question and to come up with ideas and just great ideas that we can look at and how we're going to implement. So I'm just a part of a larger group that is looking forward to moving that needle. And it's not going to move fast, but we're just going to continue to have to move the needle. And I'm looking forward to working with Warren and the others to help do that.
Thank you, Richard. Tim Pulliam, what role can and should city officials have in fostering and supporting entrepreneurs in the region?
Well, I mean, one thing is, in my case, you know, share my experiences. This region attracted me here mostly because of things I had that had nothing to do with attracting entrepreneurs. I just knew that this was a place I wanted to be. When I got here, I was very surprised. You know, I saw older gentlemen in businesses. I was fresh out of college, and I kind of looked at them as the good old boy club. I thought, wow, all these rich old business guys around town making all this stuff happen. And what I learned pretty quickly is that a lot of those guys cared a lot more for the young people who were coming to this community and their success than I realized. And they really laid down a foundation, you know, I think 20 years ago and 30 years ago, for a very welcoming area that wants to help people excel. They wanted to make sure that the people we were bringing here were successful. And now that I've been here for quite a while and I have a business here, I kind of feel that same way. Like, we definitely have a lot of good experiences. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that have been able to come here and flourish. I think that says a lot about the area and some of the elder statesmen so to speak, and excited to be able to continue to network with those folks and bring their experiences and now mine to this next generation.
Thank you, Tim. Next question is for Merrick Roman. How will you engage young professionals in your decision-making process?
So I like to think that I'm a young professional still as well, being 34, that I think that to engage young professionals into is as a city commissioner, as an elected official, it's a very important question. I like discourse. I like philosophy and arguing and trying to get to what is the most efficient way to persuade someone for arguments and for information, and being able to. I think that when our young people respond well to putting forth evidence and putting forth the policies and communicating, not treating them as kids, but treating them as entrepreneurs, as future business owners, our future, essentially, in Traverse City. And I think that with our institutions such as Munson, or such as the Traverse Connect, or 20 Fathoms, or many other organizations that are within our downtown and our city limits, I think that we will be able to flourish and provide a foundation for the years to come, and making our institutions being able to be around for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Merrick. Next question is for Mai. Should the city offer voters an opportunity to weigh in on Fish Pass, continue litigation, or both, and why?
Well, the city charter, as it's been noted, is quite clear that any disposition of parkland must be brought before the voters. And I know what's at issue is whether the dam is infrastructure or is it parkland. Now, the fact that it shows up on a city map of city parks as the Union Street Dam Park, it makes that argument a little trickier. So I think what we are going to see is a continuation of the litigation, and ultimately it may end up having to be brought before the citizens. But I want to be clear that as a candidate, I fully support Fish Pass. I see it as an important piece of the restoration of the Boardman-Ottaway River system. And I think that this is an opportunity to have some larger discussions about how we want to see our public space utilized, and that relates to that question about in the next 5, 10, 25 years. And in my vision of Traverse City in the future, that includes Fish Pass.
Thank you, Mai. Mitchell Treadwell is next. The availability of attainable housing is a key barrier to success of our businesses, our citizens, and our community. How do you intend to address the lack of adequate attainable housing?
Well, I would hope that the Housing Commission could be a good resource for this, since that is our written mission, is to increase and provide affordable housing for our community. However, we are very limited in what we can provide. Our main project, Riverview Terrace on 150 Pine Street, only has 115 apartments. We're looking at developing additional properties. We have a partnership with Beta to provide potentially over 200 new units on Lafreniere, which is outside of the city limits. And we're also in talks to purchase a property on 8th Street, the former Tebow Florist, and convert that into apartments. That would be affordably priced. However, we are very limited in our scope. And due to the length of our wait list for our programs, currently 2 to 3 years or more, many people that would like to, especially young people moving to the area, would not be eligible for those programs. So what the city can do, and what I would like to do to build on my experience at the Housing Commission, is to leverage our ability to use pilots, payments in lieu of taxes programs, to bring new development into our city, and also to, through small zoning changes, allow people to rent out rooms or parts of their houses on a long-term basis as a way of allowing more residents in some of our neighborhoods without gutting them for short-term rentals.
Thank you, Mitchell. Next up is Tim Werner. What is your vision for the city 5, 10, and 25 years from now?
Yeah, thanks. Overall, my vision is adding people living in the city, and maybe working backwards 25 years from now. I hope we double our population. I hope we're at 30,000 people. And I know that probably scares some folks out there, and that'll be covered in some of your other questions. But that's where I want to be, because to me, livable density, and I said that, top 2 reasons I'm running are climate crisis and housing crisis. By giving people the opportunity to live in the city, they can live with a smaller carbon footprint. And certainly it'll take years to get to that number, to double our population. But in adding housing, which I think we're all for, we'll start on a path toward that. And certainly as we do that and add people, we have to pay more attention to our parks and spaces for people. But I want to see a vibrant city, a vibrant community with activity all 4 seasons of the year. And I think that's attainable. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Mark Wilson is next. What can elected officials do to promote diverse and welcoming communities in an effort to attract the best and brightest minds to our region?
I had a hard time with this question because, I mentioned that I have a master's degree in public administration, but I also have a GED that I obtained from Traverse City Central High School. And so I'll be the first to say I'm not the best and brightest mind in our region, but because of the resources available here, I was able to be nurtured and obtain the tools necessary to, I don't want to say convince, but some other people have told me that they feel I'm a rather bright guy. So in an effort to bring people here, which is good. There's plenty of people here that have come from elsewhere that I support and love, and I think they're doing innovative things here, and it's a great thing. I just want to always protect us from what my community kind of jokes about, the 150-mile rule, which is somebody can't know something unless they come from at least 150 miles away, or unless they come from another state here, they can't possibly provide and build our community to what it needs to be. And I absolutely would love to see others come, but I also don't want anybody that's been here left behind at all. And I want to make sure that we're looking towards our citizens and bringing them up to be the best and bright as they can shine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next up is Richard Lewis. As an elected city leader, how do you intend to balance our need for smart growth strategies with the wishes of some constituents who intend to stop growth? You're muted.
I've been around since 1991, and that question has been bounced around. There's always somebody out there that's trying to stop growth. And what is smart growth? If you go out to Portland, they were at one point the leader in smart growth and how to manage everything out there. And right now, people are trying to get out of Portland because that model didn't work. Let's be honest about it, folks. We are all human beings, and not all of us like major change coming. And the folks out there have a right to express their opinion to us and to everybody. In the end, we have to work our way through the issues, work our way through what is the best for the city. And, the 7 of us will have to make a decision. Was I a big fan of 100-story buildings, 6 years ago? No, but I thought that the rules of the Planning Commission was the right call. Yet the voters of this community said, no, that's not the right call. So we just got to work through it. Everybody, I mentioned earlier, we got to treat everyone with respect and dignity, and all of a sudden putting a label on somebody that doesn't do that. They have a right to their opinion. There's how many of us up here? We all have them. So let's just work our way through it and be positive about it.
Thank you, Richard. Next up is Tim Pulliam. Northwest Lower Michigan is facing a persistent shortage of childcare, making it difficult for parents of young children to continue working. The shortage is caused in part by a lack of qualified workers, forcing childcare providers to scale back or close altogether. How would you approach solving our region's childcare workforce shortage?
Well, the biggest problem I have with childcare when I think about how to solve it is that we need qualified people to be able to take care of the children. And the people who need the childcare the most can't afford to pay the type of childcare that allows us to keep people employed in the childcare industry. And so I think probably we're going to have to find a way to have creative programs and encourage new businesses and employers that are coming in there to have a way to have partnerships where we find a way. Somehow we're going to have to either subsidize the places that these child care centers operate, or we're going to have to find a way to encourage and subsidize or create some sort of equitable solution for the employers, because you're not going to be able to afford $5 or $10 an hour childcare on a $10 or a $15 an hour wage. No matter what we do, we're just not going to be able to get qualified people in there to work those jobs when people can't afford to send their kids to them. And so we got to look outside the box. Absolutely. We're going to have to find creative ways to partner up with our workforce and with our employers and with our local governments to solve the solution.
Thank you, Tim. Next up is Merrick Roman. What role can and should city officials have in fostering and supporting entrepreneurs in our region?
Thank you for the question. I think this is an incredibly great question, especially as a precursor for where I see the city going in 5, 10, 25 years. I think that the city has an excellent opportunity to play a role in our startup incubation facilities like 20 Fathoms. I want to give a shout out to them, and also to work with Traverse Connect on bringing in solutions from the state and from the feds, bringing in money and having communication lines and to have people talk to each other and to listen for policy concerns on what do we need to grow our businesses, whether it's affordable housing or whether it's having power tariffs so that we can actually power up our manufacturing facilities. I think that as a city commissioner that I will be able to use my expertise as a chemical engineer and applied economist to find the solutions from the state and from the feds for money and to foster growth for the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrick. Next up is Mai. Northwest Lower Michigan is facing a persistent shortage of childcare, making it difficult for parents and young children to continue working. The shortage is caused in part by a lack of qualified workers, forcing childcare providers to scale back or close altogether. How would you approach solving our region's childcare workforce shortage?
So while I don't have children of my own, and I'm not dealing with this personally, I see this play out in the lives of my colleagues and my friends every day. And I reached out to some members of the childcare community, to providers and other people who are working in that field. And what became very clear, and what I thought was a very powerful statement, was that it isn't a lack or isn't a shortage of qualified childcare workers. We have a lack of qualified childcare workers who can afford to live on the wages that these jobs pay. It's been noted, that 90% of childcare providers make below the poverty level. One person in particular, among those who I reached out to, is very close to finishing her master's degree. She works full-time providing childcare, and she makes under $30,000 a year. So when we talk about wanting to have the best people providing the care to our most, to the children who are needing the most attention and are in the most critical stage of their development, we want someone like her, but we're not paying those wages. And so this is going to take a lot of effort across the board from different systems, but at the local level, we can do things like support the cost sharing. We can do things like support the advocacy that Traverse Connect has engaged in to promote some bills in the legislature, and even things like what Traverse City did in its own offices with allowing infants in the workplace.
Thank you, Mai. Mitchell Treadwell is up next. What can elected officials do to promote diverse and welcoming communities in an effort to attract the best and brightest minds to our region?
Well, I would say that we need to make sure that we work with our neighboring townships and municipal entities to ensure that we are creating a regional network promoting diversity and inclusion. Traverse City has a very good non-discrimination ordinance, yet it is not matched by that of our townships, which has left us in a position where the region is not necessarily seen as particularly inclusive to people from diverse backgrounds that might want to come to our area. If we can better work to address these issues, if we can highlight and solve problems where people have felt excluded or that people from their background were not welcome, then we can make Traverse City a more inclusive space. We have historically been a very white community, and there have definitely been cases of people from minority groups feeling like we weren't as welcoming as we could have been. And there's definitely steps that we can take as a city and as a broader region to promote diversity and inclusion so that those people that are among the best and brightest can feel like they are welcome in our great city by the bay.
Thank you, Mitchell. Next up is Tim Werner. Should the city offer voters an opportunity to weigh in on Fish Pass, continue litigation, or both, and why?
I'm supportive of continuing litigation. I'm not interested in the precedent it sets to put any changes to parks or city-owned land that's not parks to a vote of the people. I'm not supportive of that precedent. I know the judicial system can take time, and it is taking time, but I'm satisfied with pursuing that approach. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Mark Wilson is up next. The availability of attainable housing is a key barrier to success of our businesses, our citizens, and our community. How do you intend to address the lack of adequate attainable housing?
So I have had the opportunity sitting here hearing other candidates already answer this question. So I don't mean to echo their words with appropriate incentives for longer term solutions. And I've been reading online and hearing in the news that there's potentially some of that in the works right now. But I also like the collaborations with some of the local nonprofits that are vested in the community and providing long-term solutions for affordable housing without the complete worry of maximizing profits. So if there's a means to collaborate with city-owned lots, with some of these entities and organizations that are interested in real affordable housing, I would urge the commission to consider that, and it would probably have my vote and motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next question is for Richard Lewis. Are there current city policies, projects, or approaches that you're hoping to change? And if so, how?
Well, one project that I know that we've been involved in for a number of years is Safe Harbor. And I'd like to start on that one to turn that into a year-round facility. And so that those that aren't us that get to live and have a roof under our heads every night and have a decent meal every night, if we choose to cook, can, at least have a safe place to be instead of being outside. That's going to take a lot of effort because, again, that's one of those things that we really don't like to talk about. It's just those people are out there, and those people are going to be in our neighborhood. Those people are me just one step away. It could be me, I don't know, and I'm blessed that I'm not. That's one. And so we're just going to have to talk about it and see how we can do that and how we can help that nonprofit to move that needle and others to help. Another one is that, I want to move things a little quicker, or attempt to stay focused on what is important for our community instead of wavering on numerous issues, because we've only got so much staff and they've only got so much time, and we need to stay focused as we can. We'll be setting a 2-year goals that we want to try to achieve, and we know that we've got infrastructures that we got to do. I know the next commission is there's going to be a number of us that are going to be serving on ad hoc committees, I hope, that are going to help to get some of these answers and get things moving so they could be in front of the voters for consistent consideration in the near future. So we'll just keep working at it.
Thank you, Richard. Next up is Tim Pulliam. How will you engage young professionals in your decision-making process?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to get to work with quite a few, talk to them kind of almost on the daily. So I'm kind of in the loop now. I get to stay engaged with them, but I think the way to keep them coming at us with good ideas and with their creativity and with viewpoints that maybe, I'm 47, so I'm kind of in the middle of the young professional and the good old boys club, whatever I called it at the beginning. But, I think we need to be able to just listen to the crazy ideas sometimes, because I know that it was, some of the things that have allowed me to find success were the things that probably like my parents' generation thought were crazy. And so, at 47, going into my 50s, I want to be open-minded to things and looking at things a little bit differently, things that maybe sound a little wild or a little crazy as a way to maybe accomplish the change that we're trying to accomplish. And so that's what I'd say. I'm probably going to try to just really embrace those crazy ideas, meet them in their territory, in their environment, and really be willing to listen to it. Stay open-minded.
Thank you, Tim. Next question is for Merrick. How would you approach solving our region's childcare workforce shortage?
Thank you for the question. I think that childcare is one of the problems that not a lot of people talk about, or not. It's a very complex problem that there's really no discernible one silver bullet that will solve the entire situation. At its core, what affordable childcare is that people who are working can drop off their kids before work. They will pick their kids up after work, and all for a piece of their income. So there's two problems. One, that we don't have enough places to take our kids or enough capacity. And two, that what it requires to run these facilities, to pay the workers, is too high, and that it won't create an efficient outcome for people to be able to get affordable childcare. So what I think the solutions are is we have to forge relationships with our institutions, Munson, the county, and various townships, to find out how we can get people that are qualified, whether it's or to get qualified people to work with the state on getting zoning restrictions, or to incentivize making it easier, rolling back regulations, or listening to our partners and seeing what they're saying, seeing what their problems are, and if the city commission can be of service to them. So thank you.
Thank you, Merrick. Next up is Mai. The availability of attainable housing is a key barrier to success of our businesses, our citizens, and our community. How do you intend to address the lack of adequate attainable housing?
So like many people who have answered this question already, this is something that I have come up against personally, that I'm very aware of the fact that if my husband hadn't bought our home in 2013 as a bachelor, it is very unlikely that we would be living in Traverse City right now, and certainly not in Slabtown. As has also been noted, this is another issue that is not going to be solved within the confines of our 8.4 square mile city, where there will be having to be collaborations with the other regional entities, with developers, with other levels of government. But I will say that while our outlying areas are perhaps preparing to grow for sprawl, I align with the things that Commissioner Warner has noted about being able to encourage more density. I would be supportive of the change to the multifamily dwelling zoning that has been proposed by to the City Commission just this past week. I think we have some tools to leverage, such as pilot that we were seeing with the development on Garfield. And we also do need to make sure that when we're using those tools and providing those incentives, that the long-term goal is in sight, which is encouraging a livable city that is an attainable place for people to call home.
Thank you, Mai. Next up is Mitch. As an elected city leader, how do you intend to balance our need for smart growth strategies with the wishes of some constituents who intend to stop growth?
I don't think it's quite fair to say that there are people that want to stop all growth. But there are people that want to make sure that the growth that we have is appropriate for our city's future and is appropriate for the adjoining neighborhoods. I don't see any reason that, say, the vacant parcel next to the Record Eagle building on Front Street, which used to be a Ford dealership before I was born, needs to stay vacant in perpetuity. That's a prime parcel in downtown that could and should be redeveloped at the appropriate time. But it needs to be redeveloped in a way that is looking future forward and is in keeping with the rest of our downtown. Similarly, we've had a number of new developments go in, especially in commercial districts directly adjacent to neighborhoods that have been out of scale of the surrounding neighborhoods and felt like people were getting shut out of the quaint community that they grew up in. We need to make sure that our zoning laws are such that new development is in keeping with the size and scale of the surrounding structures. So that you can have a new building, you can allow somebody to say, put in a garage, but it can't be something that overshadows every other building on the block. We need to just be prudent about how we're developing for the future and giving consideration to our neighborhood residents.
Thank you. Tim Werner is up next. How do you intend to address the lack of adequate attainable housing?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, and I maybe have an advantage over some others here tonight because I've been deeply involved with this the past many years. But what I intend to do, hope to do, is continue the push for redevelopment of surface parking lots and other underutilized city properties, because we as a city can have strings attached. We can make sure that they do become attainable housing, whether that's technically workforce or technically lower AMI, whatever it might be, but we can have strings attached because in part of the purchase deal for those properties. And so currently, City Commission is leading the effort on parking lot O, and the DDA is leading the effort on parking lot G, but both are moving forward. And I believe both will result in housing, and it won't be high-end condos. And we have plenty of other parcels in town. And so it's my hope that we can show ourselves this is possible. Developers in the community can see it's possible. And we'll just start, whether it's every year, there's another project that gets going, because each of these projects takes multiple years to come to fruition. And then we do have, it was mentioned, zoning. So the R9, R15, and R29 were just before the City Commission on Monday to turn it into R3, which should be called, to actually allow for more livable density, that it doesn't really matter what's in that building. So if we can put more units in that are more modest in scale, we should do that. Yes, we can't solve the housing crisis ourselves, but we can play our part. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Next up is Mark Wilson. Are there current city policies, projects, or approaches that you're hoping to change? And if so, how?
Unfortunately, currently, no. And that's mostly because until I have a better peek behind the curtain, I can't make a full, honest assessment. I can, as a citizen, look at some of the things that I wish were different, but until I get a good look at the way the city is really being ran, I can't fully weigh in on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We're running short on time, and we conferred here at the Traverse Connect offices and determined that we will move to closings now, but we will add a minute for each person's closing remarks. So each candidate will have 3 minutes, and we'll have an opportunity, if there's a question they didn't have a chance to answer, they can add in remarks on that question during closing statements. So to kick off closings, we will go right back to Mark Wilson.
I'll keep it brief because I know that there's a few of our co-candidates here that are actually running a race, and they deserve the time to be heard by the community. The rest of us are running virtually unopposed, and I think Traverse City should really question why that is. Not saying I came prepared to fight, but I did intend to run a race, and I'll still get out and hit the streets and meet the neighborhoods. But we need to encourage more engagement in our town. There was other questions that I didn't get to answer. And one of them is for fostering entrepreneurs in our region. And I fully support bringing entrepreneurs to our region, but as long as our systems are in balance and that the public doesn't take all the risk so that somebody private can get all the reward. There's a lot of names on streets and neighborhoods and on our river of someone that wasn't here very long and was only here for one purpose. And I don't want to see that continue. I love the people who have transplanted here and grew to care for our community and stuck around and built something. I appreciate it. And I also appreciate the mayor to be. Richard, thank you for saying something about Safe Haven. My grandmother died pretty much homeless, and a lot of my family experiences homelessness, and it is a concern, and it's people who have always been here. And so they're residents of the city as well and need to be looked out for. Kachimigwech, you guys have a good night.
Thank you, Mark. Next up is Tim Werner.
Yeah, thanks. I think I'll use this time to address the childcare question, at least partially. And my answer maybe is a little snarky, but I find it disappointing that folks that otherwise support, a capitalist approach to things suddenly forget about the laws of supply and demand when it applies to certain workers. And I know my colleagues here tonight touched on, well, they obviously, the wages aren't there for childcare workers. And so if the wages were there, there would be people. So it's not a shortage in workers, it's a shortage in pay. And that was made clear. There was a New York Times article just today that references other advanced Western countries. On average, they contribute $14,000 for a toddler's care each year. We in the United States contribute $500. So there you go. It's money. It's all about money. And it was touched on by others, but it's a matter of, so where does the money come from? And that's a good conversation to have. Where does the money come from? But it's going to take money. It's pretty simple. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Next up is Mitchell Treadwell.
Yes, addressing some of the unasked questions. I think that we need to be sure that we're continuing to build the city for the future. In the short term, we need to handle some of our infrastructure, continue fixing bridges, replace Union Street Dam, including with Fish Pass, solve some of our stormwater issues. But then looking forward, we need to see where we can and should put in additional development, fill some vacant lots, and increase housing in our area for long-term residents so that more people that are working in our community or that want to work in our community can afford to live here. We need to build a city that is welcoming of all people. We need to be building a community where we have enough services and amenities and businesses that people that live in our town don't need to drive everywhere, where we can walk and bike and take public transit. That I see as a great way to encourage young people and especially entrepreneurs to start out in our community if they don't have to pay that extra cost of, on average, $5,000 to $10,000 a year it costs to operate a vehicle, counting all expenses. And that's a way that we can build our city to foster that sort of growth and future potential. I hope to make our city to be a better place. I'm looking forward to enacting not just a better stormwater infrastructure, but also I've been working with the Planning Commission for 2 years now to draft a riparian buffer ordinance to better manage stormwater and to protect our waterways from pollution and to keep our green spaces nice. Together, we can work to build a city that we can all live in and that can be welcoming and future focused. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell. Next up is Mai Stanley.
Thank you, Nate. So one of the questions that I didn't get a chance to answer was about engaging with young professionals as city commissioner. And I want to acknowledge that the important role that Traverse Connect and the TCYP group played in me becoming reoriented to my hometown when I moved back here. You know, I see that as such a really vibrant piece of what our town has to offer. And it certainly got me back up to speed after a lengthy absence from this region about the issues that we're facing here, and also made important connections. And so as a city commissioner, I would be happy to participate in those morning brews and other events, but also just more informally to be approachable in our community to the people who are making their lives here, who are starting out their lives here. And I'll say, since I became a candidate, one of the things that has really touched me has been how many people in that young professional category have reached out to me, specifically young women, to thank me for running. And I'm certainly not doing that for anyone for the praise, but what I keep hearing is it means a lot to them to see someone who looks like them pursuing this kind of service in our community. And so I take that seriously and will want to continue to keep those channels of communication open. And I also just want to say that, you know, as our community creates our culture, but as an elected official, we have the opportunity to set the tone. And I'm really excited about all of the people who are here as candidates, whoever we end up working alongside for that partial term. I think we have some great minds and some great human beings here, and we can get some important work done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mai. Next up is Merrick Roman.
Thank you. So I wanted to start off with a question that was not asked, and I wanted to say that that was not asked about affordable housing. And I want to say that, you know, being philosophically minded and economically minded, I want to just put out this one equation: housing equals transportation, which equals affordable housing. If we have better transportation, we're going to have better ways to get people to affordable housing, whether that's within the city limits or outside the city limits. And I think that, you know, for the 5, 10, 25-year goals, I want to lay the foundation for a robust transportation system that can get people can have the American dream. They can own a house and they can get to work at an acceptable time, not just have that one bus that will leave Kingsley, get into Traverse City around 9 o'clock, well after the normal business hour starts, and not being able to get home until to be well after 6. I think that that I'm your candidate because I am willing to talk and willing to listen and think of the bigger picture and actually have a discussion. My number one issue is water and sewer. I don't want our storm sewers to have emissions into West Bay. I think that is unacceptable for the tourists and the residents that will come here to enjoy our beaches and our fresh water. I want to tackle big problems like drafting a stormwater utility, and I want to help draft a new master plan. I mean, we are all talking about tall buildings, building density, zoning. I think that I think the next city commission can come together and we can build a city consensus and go through it line by line if we have to, and get public input. I want to shout out to our city workers and how well they're doing, the TCLP for their fiber and for their electricity reliability. I want to work with the city workers to make sure that we can provide robust city services for generations to come. And furthermore, I like the question about how we have young citizens that are coming in, because, you know, Traverse City was on the top 10. It was number 1 place to be. And I want to maintain that spot right there. And I want our city to be the shining jewel in the country, in the state, the country, and the world. And I think that it all starts local government. And I'm here to serve, here to listen, and let's make something good happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrick. Next up is Tim Pulliam.
Yeah, Well, thanks for the time, first and foremost. I definitely will be proud to be able to serve. I started a business here and I've started a family here. Traverse City is definitely very near and dear to my heart. And one of the questions talked a little bit about, is there something I would do, a policy I would change, a procedure? Is there something I would do kind of to hit the ground running that I would like to change about the way I see things go? And I think one of those things, and people touched on the result of this issue, there's not many people running. And, you know, I'm running because of peer pressure. And most people said, it sounds terrible. Why would you want to do that? And I think we've allowed it to get a little unwieldy. We have awesome staff. We have an awesome community. We have no shortage of surveys and of consultants and of master plans. And so I just want to come in and trust the process. And I want to be able to talk less. And I want to be able to listen and kind of analyze and trust that we have all these people doing all these things to help us come to the best answer. And I don't want to debate it for 5 hours every Monday night. I want to come there and I want to talk less and I want to act with purpose. And I want to get people on the same page and make sure that when we're saying yes to something, we all know why we're saying yes to it. And that's really it. And that's why I'm here. So have a good night and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tim. And last but not least, Richard Lewis.
Well, seeing how I get to close this like I opened it, thank you very much to Traverse Connect for putting this on. It's always interesting to hear what my colleagues are thinking and how we're going to move forward, but it's refreshing to know that everyone wants to try to do the best of that we know how to do. I know that I've already said this before in other places, that there's one promise that I can make. We're not going to make everybody happy. I'm not going to make them happy. The commission's not going to make them happy on every issue and every cause and whatever. But one thing you can trust is that we are going to do our best to make the best decision for the long-term good of our community and for the people that live, work, and play here. One thing I do want to do is remind everybody that while there are candidates up there and you really got to make a decision on one race, there's also another question that's on the ballot. And we want you to, and I'm going to encourage you to vote yes. You want to talk about efficiency and things like that, but we need to raise the spending limit of the city manager. And just know that the city commission will get to set that limit every year, so we can look at that. So please pay attention to that's out there. Last but not least, vote. Please vote. You don't have to fill in that little oval next to my name if you don't want to. That's fine. I'll live. There's been plenty of people that's yelled at me, and I'm still surviving. I've had the Record Eagle yell at me on plenty of occasions. I still survived. That's great, and I've had the chamber yell at me, and I still survived. But we're all here doing the best we can. But we need you to go vote. You have to vote, and you got many ways to do it, and it's wide open. It's an off-year election. There's no excitement whatsoever. Maybe I can create something in the next day or so, but come on, go vote. It's your privilege. You can do that. And we need you to go out there and help us make the decision. And your vote does make a difference. So that's why you see my yard signs and you see that. I'm trying to remind you, there is an election after. Please participate. Please. Thanks. And let's all have fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you to the candidates for jumping in tonight and frankly, for raising your hand for what often will be a thankless job. And thank you to everybody who hopped in to watch or will watch later. It's, something we probably take for granted too often in Traverse City, that we have an extraordinarily engaged community. And we're the Record Eagle, and I'm sure Traverse Connect are proud to be part of that. So with that, I will kick it over to Warren to close us out for the evening.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. And thanks everyone for being involved. I'm sorry that we did not get to all the questions tonight, but we appreciate everyone's involvement. And we will continue to have the conversation. Again, we'll post the recording of this on our website. And just a special thanks one more time for the candidates for their hard work and dedication to serving our community. Thanks. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.